Could the willpower that made you successful now be making you suffer? Welcome back to the Warrior Mind podcast. I'm Greg Swanson. This is episode 741. And today we're going to be looking at the dark side of willpower, and how appropriate, because my new office has a dark side, all hunter green, so it looks like some floating head here. Looking to create a better background here in the near future. So appreciate your understanding. So we're going to talk about this willpower because, we've talked about mental strength, mental toughness, and willpower comes up as this attribute that we must have. We must create this willpower at all costs. But, in the pursuit of greatness, we often glorify, right, that iron discipline to wake up early, push harder, and never quit. We put it on this pedestal that we bow down to at times. But there's a dark side to this weapon, right? When willpower becomes obsession, it turns inward, cutting the very warrior it was meant to serve. So it can backfire, eating its own tail, if you will. Discipline is sacred. But when detached from awareness, it morphs into a silent tyrant, demanding more, giving less, and eroding the spirit it once empowered. So the myth of endless discipline, right, is Western culture worships discipline, willpower, as its ultimate virtue. Grind harder, outwork everyone else, never rest. And that's where I come in as a coach to help people recover from this ultimate discipline. And because this leads to burnout, it leads to fatigue, it leads to stress. And we don't have to do it as hard as we think we need to. Yes, we need to have willpower. We need to have discipline. But neuroscience tells us a different story. Studies on cognitive fatigue reveal that excessive self-control depletes dopamine, it narrows our focus, and it dulls our creativity. All the things that we need to be successful. Yet when we look at it through neuroscience, this cognitive fatigue, because of this unwavering willpower, if you will, can actually be holding us back and even pushing us back. When the nervous system remains locked in strain, fight or flight, the mind loses clarity and flexibility. It replaces creativity with compliance, like, okay, here I am, and curiosity with exhaustion. So we have compliance and exhaustion. How much are you going to get done with those two as opposed to creativity and curiosity? So there's this fine line, right? This tipping point that we're talking about. And over time, this rigid pursuit of perfection leads straight into the dark side of willpower. The conscious warrior doesn't abandon discipline. He evolves it, meaning that we just don't throw it away. We don't throw away the baby in the bathwater. We looked at how we can use it as opposed to it using us. Through the 4 pillars of strength, the conscious warrior transforms raw will into refined conscious power. And this is the physical strength, right? The foundation. If you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you know that I'm a big fan of, getting the physical strength there to access the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual, right? We want to look at movement as mastery, not a metronome. We want to use rest as a weapon that strengthens longevity and energy, right? Movement as a mastery. Even when you're going to work out bench press, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Are you a master at that? Are you running? Do you have the correct mastery? So we want to look at that as a mastery, not just, okay, here I go, I'm going to put in some miles. Right? The other pillar is mental strength. That's the blade, right? Focus with flexibility. Let mental toughness guide with awareness, not dominate the ego. A lot of folks will tout their mental toughness horn or mental strength horn, and it's really just the ego. It's not the guiding the awareness of what needs to be done. And then we have the third pillar, the emotional strength. That's the fire within. Feel deeply to act clearly, right? Emotional mastery amplifies authenticity and reliance, right? So this is that third strength that I work with clients on. And we want to get that emotional mastery, not suppressing it, but working with it so it amplifies your authenticity. And then we have this spiritual strength, right? That's the compass. That's the purpose over performance. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's meaning over the metrics. It's alignment transforms action into a sacred expression, no matter what you're doing. You could be running, you could be doing your work, you could be reporting to people, whatever it may be. But when you have this spiritual strength, it transforms actions into that sacred expression. So we want to recognize, the signs of the dark side of willpower. That's kind of what the podcast is here, is to help you understand, look at these signs, and then you can decide what you want to do on your own, right? So you feel restless when not achieving, chasing goals, as if stillness meant regression or stillness meant you're a loser or stillness meant you have to be accomplishing something. So if you're sitting still trying to recover and relax and you're restless and you're chasing goals, that can be the dark side of willpower, right? Rest feels like weakness. Oh, I'll rest enough when I'm dead, leaving you anxious whenever you pause or recover. And without recovery, we can't take action. You just can't keep taking action all the time. We have to recover. And this is the toughest thing when people consider high performance and peak performance. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. No, you got to rest. There's rest in there. But this dark side of willpower means, oh, I got to get up when I have 104 degrees and get to the gym temperature. I got to do this, right? It's asinine, right? You punish yourself for mistakes, turning setbacks into proof of failure. You bully up on yourself when, mistakes are great, because without mistakes, we wouldn't learn to progress. And even if you think you have something mastered, masters make mistakes. And then you keep going. But if you think it's a setback and then you come down on yourself, oh, I'm a failure, I'm no good, then you know what happens? You give up and then you are a failure. But if you look at mistakes as, this is great feedback. What can I do better next time? But this is the dark side of willpower, right? It's we look at mistakes and then throw ourselves into the fire. And relationships suffer from rigid routines, right? We have to do this. Friday night is date night. We have to have coffee at 7:15. We have to do this. Right? And then the presence, meaning being with that person in a relationship, whether it's romantic or a friend, is lost to performance. You look at this as a checklist. Okay, we're going to meet for coffee here, and then we're going to go to lunch, and then we're going to go to dinner, and then we're going to go to here, then we're going to go hike. Oh, we have to go do this mountain climb at this time. We have to do this. And you get caught up in doing all of that because it's you feel that's the willpower to do it. But in reality, it's just you lose your presence, you lose the now to performance. And that's also part of the dark side of willpower. And then joy fades from one things that inspired you. The fire replaced by fatigue and disconnection. And then you just keep going through the motions, not accomplishing anything, but thinking that you're all that in a bag of chips because your willpower is doing it. But you're not getting anything done. So why bother? Rest, recover, and come back stronger. We want to look at now reclaiming balance and escaping the dark side of willpower. We want to have awareness of those things that I just went through, awareness of why are we doing that? Are we doing something for joy? Are we doing something because we have to, because we feel we have to? I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have to go to the gym, as opposed to I want to, I desire to. So we want to be aware of the stories we're telling ourselves and the actions that we're taking. And then we want to look at integration, right? Looking at those four pillars of strength, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we want to integrate those so that our actions are in alignment with each one of those pillars. And then we want to take time at the end of every day, preferably, and reflect. How did I do today? Did I integrate all these four pillars? Did I push something beyond what I should have and let it rest? Or did I go right to the edge and back off, right? That we want to reflect. So awareness brings us to reflection as well. And then we want to have alignment. Right, we can integrate the parts, but are they aligned? Because we want to have a common thread for the physical, the mental, emotional, and the spiritual in any given aspect of our life. And we want to make sure they are aligned so they support each other. Yes, they're integrated if you're doing all four, but are they aligned with each other? And then every choice, right, you make becomes a declaration of who you are beyond the dark side of willpower. So here's some final thoughts, right? Conclusion is the blade and the breath, right? Discipline, like a blade, can defend or destroy. The conscious warrior knows when to strike and when to breathe. The dark side of willpower isn't defeat by more strength, it's transcended through integration. When all four pillars align, the warrior no longer chases perfection, he embodies it. Your next evolution isn't about pushing harder. It's about awakening deeper beyond the dark side of willpower into balanced, conscious mastery. So just want to go real quick over this bonus section. That was the end of the real podcast, or maybe it's not, right? We want to look at what is the difference between willpower and discipline. As an energy source, willpower is reactive energy. It's the initial spark that forces that push to act when motivation fails. Discipline is integrated energy. It's the steady current that flows when purpose, structure, and awareness are aligned. The conscious warrior insight, willpower burns hot and fast. Discipline burns clean and sustained. One fights the resistance, the other transcends it. So now let's look at relationships, right? Willpower seeks to dominate the self. It treats the mind and the body like enemies that must be conquered. Discipline seeks to partner with the self. It recognizes the rhythm, the rest, and the alignment as allies in mastery. And the conscious warrior insight here is willpower says, I must win at all costs. Discipline says, I'll align my strengths with wisdom. So time-wise, willpower thrives in short spurts. It's what gets you started but quickly depletes under stress or fatigue. Discipline thrives in long arches. It builds systems, habits, and identify level change that endure under pressure. So the conscious warrior insight here is willpower creates results, discipline creates evolution. And then we want to look at the emotional impact of willpower versus discipline. Willpower often breeds tension and guilt. It frames success as resistance and failure as weakness. Discipline bundles confidence and peace. It sees progress as rhythm and setbacks as information. And the conscious warrior insight here is the more you force yourself, the more fragmented you become. The more you align yourself, the more whole you become. And then with spiritual alignment, willpower operates from ego and effort. It wants to prove worth through struggle. Discipline operates from purpose and alignment. It channels effort through meaning. And the conscious warrior insight here is willpower fights for control. Discipline flows from consciousness. And then outcome. Willpower leads to exhaustion when isolated from awareness. This is the dark side of willpower. Discipline leads to integration and freedom when guided by awareness. This is the path of the conscious warrior. And the conscious warrior insight, willpower without discipline burns out. Discipline without purpose dries out. Only integrating awareness lights the path forward. So here's a summary thought on this, right? In your world, the conscious warrior world, willpower is the ignition, but discipline is the navigation. Willpower starts the fire, discipline sustains it. But without awareness, both consume rather than create. If you want to see the show notes on this podcast, you can visit warriormindcoach.com. While you're over there, you can find some more useful information in the way of blog posts and other podcasts. Also, you'll be able to request your power strategy call over there. Since you'll be on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and that's it. All under Warrior Mind Coach. Thank you.